Okay.
Good.
We're gonna get started.
All right, are we starting with questions?
Yes.
All right.
Jesse Mitchell from CBS. Just curious, how are you planning to now address the dispensaries currently operating unlicensed?
Yeah, well, we started with education. We've been doing education around the state for the last year, right? Teaching not only operators what they can and cannot do under the new cannabis law, but also local governments, local law enforcement, how to enforce the new law in the state. And so what you've seen probably in the last couple of weeks is an uptick in enforcement activities. Obviously, we've been building up capacity as an agency, as an organization, but also that education has taken hold. Municipalities are kind of more aware of what rules they can enforce from their side without having to enforce the cannabis law. And we're seeing more and more partnerships take hold within our office, our enforcement team, New York City Sheriff's Office, for example, that we've done a lot of operations with over the last several weeks. And so we'll just continue to keep up that activity. But we put out instructions, we put out communications, we put out requests to cease and desist to all the illegal operators operating in the state, particularly the storefronts, the trucks. I've been very clear and very transparent about the fact and the frustration that it's caused and the confusion that it's caused for New York's consumers, thinking that these licensed establishments, these establishments are licensed establishments when they're not. And so we're very concerned about them, and we'll continue to increase our enforcement activity around them moving forward.
Spectrum and ABC.
It's Bobby Kuza from New York One. Talk about what happens now going forward. Like, I know you guys are aiming for before the end of the year, but how soon might we see some open? And also, did I understand right today that the licensees can start delivery service? Like, how soon can?
Yeah, no, good point. So with and you'll see this in our regulations, with all of our dispensary licenses, delivery activity is also authorized. And so as you saw from the presentation from Board Member McDaniel, there are locations coming online. They're continuing to work through that process. But in the meantime, the rest of the license authorization will be able to take hold. And so we'll be sending more guidance to our licensees about how they can engage in delivery activity in advance of their retail location coming available. But we're just going to keep working on it, keep pushing through. And it's good to see not only the progress being made by DASNY, but also that we have our nonprofits moving forward who are operating outside of the fund who can secure their own location.
But there's not a date that businesses can open. They can open as soon as they're ready.
This was a provisional license that was awarded, and so there's a couple more pieces of paperwork that our provisional licensees now have to complete. They'll complete that and then be authorized to move forward. It's the same that's been true for our conditional cultivators and our processors.
So Catherine and Serena.
I'm Kristen, Eyewitnesses. I'm gonna push you a little on the enforcement.
Sure.
What do you mean by enforcement? You can get pot anywhere in the city at any time that you want.
Absolutely.
It. What does enforcement mean?
It's always been true that you can get pot anywhere and anytime in this city.
Now you can walk in the store, you can walk in a
and
bodega,
that's
you can go up to a truck, you can do it.
absolutely. And so that's the big concern. As I spoke to earlier, we've been building up our agency capacity over the last year. And so now that we have a little bit more capacity, we're continuing to work with we had an operation, we had several operations last week with the New York City Sheriff's Office. We went into these illegal dispensaries and seized products, all non-conforming products, whether it be THC, CBD products, are all game for us to seize. And there will be and has been additional action because folks are violating not just the cannabis law, but the penal law, municipal law, and tax law. And so what we've tried to communicate with this education first approach is that, hey, we may have legalized, but we did not end all potentiality for negative consequences to come at you if you're operating outside of our law. And so now we'll just continue to do that activity as we begin building up capacity to go into these illicit shops, seize the cannabis products, particularly those that are attracted to young people. And that's going to have to be the game plan moving forward.
And NYPD as well, are they involved?
Yes.
We have Serena, then Arthur.
I'm Serena from Weedsday. I'm wondering how many, if any, physical locations do you anticipate opening before the end of the year?
Unclear. We are still working with our partners in DASNY. They're leading that part of the project. You saw a presentation today about one of the locations that's coming online quickly, but we're working with DASNY as they continue to move that project forward.
Yeah, Arthur.
Chris, how you doing? What can you say to New Yorkers who maybe respect the rights of other New Yorkers to consume marijuana, but don't want to smell it, whether it's in their hallways or on their streets, or for their kids to smell it, aside from the education campaign?
Well, what we've said, and this was an important investment that we made at the onset of this project, was trying to give that public education to folks, letting them know that if you want to consume cannabis, do so in a respectful way, away from others. We did change the law so that folks can smoke outside. There, of course, was quite a bit of criminalization around public possession or presumed public possession prior to prohibition falling, and so it's a bit of a sensitive issue but we definitely understand that this can be a nuisance. And so what we tried to do is focus on the public education side, communicating on our previous cannabis conversations, public health campaign, that folks should not be smoking, too close to others, creating some additional space when you're deciding to use cannabis outside, particularly smoking or vaping. So we're going to continue to invest our resources there.
We got Heard, then we got Andrea here.
Hi, Alice Martin, Cannabis Wire. How much of the $200 million equity fund has been raised and how many leases have been secured?
I'm not sure of how much the specifics of where the fund is exactly at this point in time. That's the question you can refer to Daz.
And what about the leases?
Andrew Sipp from Channel 4. You mentioned that one of your board members held up the picture. I think that was in Harlem, a lobby, a couple blocks from here. How soon can they open?
Well, I think we have to finish the work of design build and all that stuff that is rolled out, that was expressed earlier today by Board Member McDaniel. And so for the specifics in terms of exactly where the program is on terms of the build out side, that's a question that you can go back to Daz.
We got back on the right, then Allison and Serena.
Andreas Renner, New York Cannabis Insider. Again, with the enforcement, a lot of action has been happening here in the city, but what about other areas like Ithaca, Syracuse, Buffalo?
We actually have taken quite a bit of action outside of the city, and thankful that small municipal governments, including Cheektowaga and Western New York, has stepped in. The law enforcement and the municipality, they have both stepped in to assist us in enforcement actions in the last couple of weeks, and so we're going to continue to do that with local law enforcement.
Allison?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up about those leases. I know it's a DASNY regulatory issue, but Ruben's on the board, so I was curious if you had an update.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying, is that from our side of things, we've been pushing forward, getting these licensees identified, drafting regulations, creating the rules for the program. As it relates to the next part of things in terms of getting those leases secured and dealing with the fund, that was a largely DASNY project, so we're trying to just finish that work now.
Serena?
Hey, it's Serena from Newsdragon. So understanding that licensees could do delivery service soon, but they need to have a few more paperwork filed, when do you think that would be available? What's your estimate for delivery service?
I can't give an exact estimate, but it is one more additional disclosures, one more part of the application, the second part of the application that they have to complete. So that will include financial disclosures, giving us a fuller picture of everybody that will be operating within the entity. So, I mean, in terms of that authorization, it should be in the next couple of weeks.
We got Wes?
I apologize to be redundant. I understand OCM is working with DASNY right now, but can OCM confirm that at least one retail store will be open by 2023?
Yes.
Okay.
We got right here in the back?
Trina Menino, the city. Can you give us a time frame of when the next rollout of card licenses will be announced?
We will likely have another December board meeting. That still needs to be finalized, but likely another December board meeting where we can continue this work of rolling out the applicants. We've been doing this for our cultivators and our processors, kind of taking it bit by bit. There's a cure period required in our law that allows us to work with folks to cure any deficiencies in the application. We're going through that process with the 900 folks who submitted applications, as I've highlighted, so that'll be an ongoing process.
Is
We
there
have
something,
two more. Go ahead,
is there
Justin.
something you've seen so far that new applicants can learn or people can learn from what has been denied and confirmed?
Well, this particular application, for the card application, that window has closed. I want to speak to, I guess, eligibility, which is a point that was mentioned earlier today. We had put forward a specific eligibility criteria for the card program. That won't be the same eligibility criteria moving forward. And if you go through our regulations, you'll be able to see some of the other types of information we'll be requesting from applicants as they go through the process. We're prioritizing, their commitment to community. We're prioritizing their commitment to sustainability and making sure that they are actually good actors and good industry participants. And so those are the kind of things that we're focusing on moving forward outside of this card program.
Last question, we have Arthur right here.
Chris, what are you guys going to do about the fact that you see states like California where there's a black market presence that continues to hamper how the clean game is trying to operate? One of the processors brought up a point about things coming in from out of state. What are you going to do about that?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have control over kind of California product flowing in, as I mentioned earlier. That's always been the case of things. What we can do is put forward, appropriate standards for our cultivators here. Not only a track and trace system, but prioritization of folks, for example, growing New York product, sun-grown product, elevating that product, getting a special label and a special stamp for those operators who are operating within our framework. We're doing so sustainably and in a responsible way. So we're going to continue to promote New York cannabis to the point where New York cannabis will be the proud, the best cannabis products in the world. So that's our focus right now. We obviously have to take on our actions. A lot of the illicit product coming in is from California, and so we'll be continuing to seize that product. But in terms of making sure that we can compete, we have to create the space for our entrepreneurs and then continue to promote their product as much as possible. And that's our commitment.
Thank you, everybody. Please make sure to email press if you have any questions, or Aaron Gittleman or myself. We can definitely here for you.
I can answer anything on background, give more context.